The story introduces us to Miranda Wells, a woman whose life is a masterpiece of clinical order and sterile perfection. As a surgical nurse, Miranda lives in a world of controlled environments, white linens, and razor-sharp precision. Her home is an extension of her professional life, minimalist, spotless, and devoid of any chaos. We see her moving through her daily routine with a haunting level of discipline. She doesn't just live in her house, she maintains it like a laboratory. She is currently preparing to sell this home to move toward a higher career goal, a promotion that represents the next logical step in her perfectly mapped out future. However, there is a subtle, simmering tension in her solitude. Her father, Mitchell, a rugged blue-collar handyman played by Nick Nolte, is the only person who truly sees her. He loves her deeply, but is often overwhelmed by her obsessive need for control. He spends his days fixing the physical structures around her, perhaps sensing that the emotional structure of his daughter's life is far more fragile than she admits. The catalyst for the nightmare is a blind date arranged by a colleague. Miranda, though hesitant, agrees to meet a man named Kevin. On the afternoon of the date, Miranda is in her kitchen, baking a bundt cake with the focus of a scientist. Every measurement is exact. Every movement is calculated. There is a knock at the door. It is earlier than expected. When she opens it, she finds a young man standing there. This is William Finn. He is handsome, wearing a casual shirt and jeans, looking slightly disheveled but possessing a disarming, boyish charm. Miranda, assuming this is Kevin, invites him in. They sit on her porch, surrounded by the peaceful sounds of a suburban afternoon. The conversation is light, but William is observant, his eyes scanning the pristine interior of the house. He comments on her precision, his voice smooth and complimentary. Miranda, usually guarded, allows herself to relax, charmed by his apparent interest in her world. She goes to the kitchen to get him a glass of water, leaving her sanctuary open to a predator. The transition from a pleasant afternoon to a living hell is instantaneous. When Miranda returns, the atmosphere has curdled. William is no longer a guest, he is an intruder. The assault that follows is brutal, raw, and devoid of any cinematic glamour. It is a calculated violation of her body and her autonomy. Miranda, a woman who spends her life healing others, finds herself helpless on the floor of her own kitchen. William's violence is intimate and terrifying, leaving her physically shattered and psychologically broken. He vanishes into the shadows, leaving the perfect house stained with a trauma that no amount of scrubbing can ever truly remove. In the hospital, the roles are reversed. Miranda is now the patient under the harsh fluorescent lights. Mitchell stands by her, his hands, calloused from years of manual labor, trembling with a mixture of grief and a silent, burning desire for justice. He watches as his daughter retreats into a shell of silence, her once steady hands now plagued by a persistent, uncontrollable tremor. The aftermath of the attack is a slow descent into a different kind of madness. Miranda returns to her home, but the house has become a prison of memory. She scrubs the floors until her knuckles bleed, trying to erase the invisible mark William left behind. At the hospital, she is a ghost of her former self. During a routine surgery, her tremor becomes a liability. She freezes mid-incision, the sight of the surgical field triggering a visceral flashback to the kitchen floor. She is forced to take a leave of absence, her career, the very core of her identity, slipping through her fingers. Meanwhile, the police capture William. He is a narcissist with a history of predatory behavior, and he is sentenced to prison. But for Miranda, a prison sentence isn't enough. The order of the world has been disrupted, and the only way she knows how to fix things is to perform a procedure of her own. She begins to write to William in prison. At first, it seems like a move toward healing through forgiveness. She sends letter after letter, each one meticulously addressed. Initially, they come back with the cold red stamp, "Return to sender." But Miranda is a woman of infinite patience. She knows that a predator cannot resist a victim who seems to be coming back for more. Finally, the letters stop being returned. William writes back. This begins a chilling correspondence that confuses and frightens her father. Mitchell, while trying to repair the porch where the initial encounter happened, notices the growing stack of letters. He confronts her, his voice heavy with concern. Miranda, what are you doing? You're acting like he's a project, not a person. You can't fix a man like that. Miranda looks at him with a terrifyingly calm expression. I'm not fixing him, Dad. I'm finishing him. Mitchell doesn't understand the darkness behind those words, but the audience begins to see that Miranda's forgiveness is actually the first layer of a very complex and lethal trap. As the prison visits become a weekly ritual, Miranda's strategy shifts from simple correspondence to a high-stakes game of psychological grooming. She sits behind the thick glass partition, looking at William with a soft, manufactured warmth that masks her internal coldness. She begins to play into his narcissism, telling him exactly what a man like him wants to hear, that she can't stop thinking about him, that the trauma has bonded them, and that she has no one else. To the prison guards and the parole board, she looks like a victim suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. But in reality, she is the one holding the leash. She begins to treat William like a project, or more accurately, a doll. She asks for his sizes. She goes to high-end boutiques and buys him expensive, stylish clothes. She describes these outfits to him in detail during her visits, painting a picture of the new man he will become once he is back in her care. The engagement ruse is the centerpiece of her plan. She begins to drop hints about a future together, suggesting that her house, the very site of his crime, is waiting for him to fill its empty rooms. She brings him home-cooked meals, or at least the promise of them, describing the recipes she's perfecting in the kitchen where he once attacked her. William, arrogant and deluded, truly believes he has conquered Miranda. He thinks his masculine power was so overwhelming that she has fallen in love with her own predator. He wears the clothes she sends him like a uniform of victory, strutting through the prison yard as if he's already a free man with a beautiful wife waiting at home. Miranda even goes as far as to help him prepare for his parole hearing, coaching him on what to say and how to look remorseful. Her testimony is the final key. When a respectable surgical nurse tells a board that she has forgiven her attacker and wants to help him reintegrate into society, they listen. Back at the house, the atmosphere becomes increasingly macabre. Mitchell, her father, visits and finds the guest room prepared. It's filled with the new clothes she bought for William, laid out on the bed with a precision that is nothing short of haunting. The room looks like a catalog display, sterile and lifeless. Mitchell is horrified. He sees his daughter's obsession reaching a breaking point. You're building a cage, Miranda, he warns her, but I can't tell if it's for him or for you. He watches as she grooms her garden and repaints the walls, all while maintaining a mask of pleasant domesticity. Miranda's behavior toward her father becomes increasingly detached. She is no longer a daughter seeking comfort, but a technician focused on a deadline. She is rehabilitating William Finn, but she is doing it with the same cold intent a taxidermist uses to preserve a specimen. After his release from prison, William returns to Miranda's house, drawn in by the letters she sent him. Instead of pushing him away, Miranda encourages him to help with repairs around the house, specifically the porch railing. This is her calculated way of lowering his guard and making him feel welcome in the very space he once violated. The day Miranda decides to end it, the atmosphere is deceptively calm. She invites him inside and offers him a drink. She has prepared a special cocktail for him, laced with a toxic substance, antifreeze. William, overconfident and believing he has successfully manipulated her back into his life, drinks it without hesitation. As the poison begins to shut down his system, the power dynamic shifts instantly. William collapses, becoming helpless. Miranda, maintaining her terrifying nurse-like composure, manages to get him down to the basement, where she has prepared a sterile area and secures him to a bed with professional restraints. As the paralytic agent surges through William's bloodstream, the shift in power is absolute. He tries to reach for Miranda, perhaps to pull her closer or to make a demand, but his arm feels as heavy as lead. His fingers, which he always took such pride in, fingers he used to grasp, to choke, and to violate, begin to curl and grow numb. He stammers, his voice thick and slurred, asking her what's in the drink. Miranda doesn't answer with words. She simply watches him with the detached curiosity of a scientist observing a lab rat. When he finally collapses, his body hitting the floor with a dull thud, he is still conscious, but his muscles have turned to stone. This is the ultimate irony. The man who once relied on his physical strength to paralyze Miranda with fear is now a prisoner in a body that refuses to obey him. She begins the procedure with terrifying precision. She explains that she isn't going to kill him because death is an end to suffering, and she wants him to have a long, long time to think about what he did. As she works, she systematically severs the tendons and nerves in his hands, ensuring that even if he survives, he will never have the strength to hold a weapon or a woman ever again. The medical horror of the scene is amplified by her calmness. She isn't acting out of a blind rage, but out of a calculated need to fix a broken part of society. The climax of her revenge is a cold, surgical procedure. Miranda doesn't kill him. Instead, she uses her medical expertise to castrate him. She removes the part of him that he used to inflict trauma, ensuring he will never be able to hurt another woman in that way again. The film ends with Miranda visiting her father, Mitchell. He had been worried about her involvement with William, but she calmly reassures him that William won't be bothering anyone anymore. She returns to her life as a disciplined, high-performing nurse. The viewer is left to wonder, in a world where the legal system fails, is a surgical strike of vengeance the only way to truly be safe? Or does the act of revenge simply complete the violation the predator started? Miranda is free, but she is a ghost inhabiting a perfectly clean house, forever haunted by the steady hands that perform the ultimate, irreversible operation.